Mondays might be my favorite day of the week. I hope they're starting to become your favorite day of the week. We should have a great episode. In fact, I know we have a great episode on deck for you today. We're talking UINDY basketball. We'll move to the NFL for a brief stint and move to the NBA, what's going on now and what's been happening the past so many years, right? Just to lead you into that, we'll start with UINDY basketball. They took the trip up to Romeoville, Illinois to play Lewis. This women's team come out with a loss, 52-37 that score, but it's tough to go in against a team like Lewis and expect to win.
Yeah, I mean, number 21 in the nation, number 1 in the GLVC as it sits. They've already clinched their spot into the conference tournament, and I don't know. I saw this team. They didn't bring their best game. They still found a way to win. Really didn't shoot the ball well. It is a team that I do think is in contention for winning the GLVC tournament, but I don't necessarily think they're going to be able to compete for a national championship. You got teams like Grand Valley State in there. They're very solid. Ashland as well out of Ohio. So there's a lot of good teams in this region. I don't know that Lewis necessarily has what it takes to overcome them, but they're still a really solid squad.
And we'll see, right? Greyhounds hold them to 52, which is their second lowest scoring performance on the season. As we move over to Coach Hetty and the Greyhounds, they also took a trip to Romeoville, Illinois, and they beat a really good Lewis team headed by Rob Stroud, who you and I both know can change a game in an instant. How'd they get this win? You were there.
Well, I mean, they really just shut down everything that Lewis wanted to do. Coming into that game, they don't shoot a ton of threes, but they shoot good threes. That's the thing. A lot of drive and kick, a lot of wide open threes. You'll see Devin Vanderheit standing on the wing. He gets a lot of wide open threes off of Rob Stroud's driving. Think of him as, I mean, a lot of people are going to say the glazing thing, blah, 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 but he plays like LeBron. He's driving towards the basket. He's trying to dunk on everybody on the court. And it's a fun play style to watch. That's kind of why me and you like him so much, but they rebound the ball very, very well. That was something that Coach Hetty had circled on the chalkboard. You don't want to forget to block out these guys because that's a game changer right there. Rob Stroud, he had 12 rebounds to go with his 15 points, but the bright spot in this one was Grant Diskin. He had 7 3-pointers. The entire crowd was against him. It seemed like everybody yelling at him. The girls' team was in his ear. He hit a 3 right in front of him, hit him with a shh. Grant Diskin is that guy, and of course, Deshaun Jackson. He had a quiet 20 points, but it was a good performance by the Greyhounds, in my opinion. And this is a season-defining win. You come in on the road, you beat one of those over 500 teams in Lewis, going into the tournament, picking up steam. But as Coach Yergler said in our post-game interview, he needs your help, as do the rest of the Greyhounds. Thursday, a very, very big game against Truman. Greyhounds have to win that one to stay in contention.
Well, yeah, they have 2 left. You first have Truman at home on Thursday, and then Quincy at Quincy on Saturday. Quincy at the bottom of the conference, Truman right in the middle with the Greyhounds. They're actually at the 6th spot in the conference. Greyhounds sit at 8 after a win over McKendree and now Lewis, and you're actually tied for that 8th spot. You have the head-to-head win over McKendree at that point, but from here on out, you need 2 wins to stay in that top 8. That's what you're looking for. If the Greyhounds were to win out and McKendree win out, they would have the point advantage, having played a tougher schedule point-wise to that point. But again, right now, McKendree and Indianapolis tied point-wise, and, well, these 2 games are going to be very, very important. What's it take, Jake?
Well, I mean, the Greyhounds are shooting the ball very well from the free throw line right now. I think that's a big thing that coaches really focused on. You think about coming into the season, you had players like Kelvin Amoko shooting 20% from the free throw line. Now he's up to over 50% in most of these games. Zach Shule's taken a step back, but that's because he's shooting more free throws than he was at the beginning of the season. Deshaun Jackson, Brody Whitaker, you've always got 5 people on the court that can shoot free throws, and especially at the end of the game, any coach will tell you that's very, very important. The other thing that I've loved seeing is the defense of this team. Levante Harris has really stepped it up these past couple of games, bringing in that extra effort. His plus-minus this game, 18. Plus 18.
Wow.
That is an impressive stat in its own. You pair that with the 11 3-pointers from Grant Diskin and Deshaun Jackson, you got yourself a Greyhounds win.
Well, pretty solid weekend for the Greyhounds. And down in Bloomington, I was there. You were listening, kept the game on the air for WNDE. The Boilers fall to the Hoosiers. Hoosiers put it on Purdue. What a game from them. Probably the best game that they've played to this point. You know, you go into halftime, I think it was a 20-6 run from Purdue at that point, and you come out and win by 15. This team wins by 15. Obviously, not a lock for the dance, but it's a pretty good showing as they head into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the most important win IU's gotten all season, other than the other time they beat Purdue in Mackey Arena, which is one of the hardest places to play in college basketball. I hear it through the radio. I hear every single one of those 40,000 fans, however many it is. It is a very loud environment, tough to play in. And Assembly Hall, really no different. You were there.
Oh, yeah.
I love Assembly Hall. It is awesome. I got to see Caitlin Clark play there against the Hoosiers a couple of years ago. It was an awesome experience. But back to this game. Purdue, how do you go on almost a 20-10 run to end off the half, and then you come out of the half and give up a 20-0 run, basically? I turned off the game for 5 minutes to switch back to watch IU versus Michigan. The women's game, I was seeing how they were doing. They were playing Michigan State. Didn't end up too well for them, so I slipped back. And IU is up by 10 points.
You know, it's wild because they come out of the second half and they put the clamps on, man. They brought a full court press and they stole the ball 4 or 5 times straight, right out of the gate. And from there on, I mean, you really took that hard-nosed play style that Purdue really emphasizes, and you fought fire with fire at that point. And Purdue could not handle the IU pressure. IU on the fast break killed the Boilermakers. And it helps when Malik Renew goes 7 for 7, joins the 1,000-point club. And how about Mike Woodson sitting on the chair that 40 years ago yesterday was thrown across the floor by historic coach Bob Knight? There was a lot that went into yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, that was very, very cool to see that chair get brought back out. But another thing that really helps IU win is when Braden Smith is 0 points. He's like 0 for 10 in the second half with 5 turnovers. That's not the Braden Smith that I've watched or listened to play all year. But you look at Fletcher Lawyer, you look at Trey Kaufman. He was averaging 20 points in the last 6 games coming into this. Trey Kaufman was. So Purdue, I'm not really worried about them, but they have lost quite a few games these past couple of weeks that kind of make me question if they're going to be one of those contender teams like they were last year.
Well, there's not much like basketball in the state of Indiana. We'll take a look at basketball on a larger scale, look at the NBA All-Star Weekend, how they lay out right now, and we'll get to that up next here on Last Call.
Good morning, Greyhounds, and welcome back to your Wednesday show. We have some very exciting things to talk about with our very special guest.
So what do you find unique about UINDY, and what kind of pulled you here?
What are you doing?
Watching Good Morning Greyhounds every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m.
Before we talk some basketball, we're in the off-season now in the NFL, kind of a lull sports-wise nationwide, but front offices across the nation are looking at what to do with their squad, specifically the Colts, and in the frame of everything is Anthony Richardson. It seems like the past 3 years, that's the name you're hearing in every single conversation held about Indianapolis, posing the question, what do the Colts do with the former first-round, 4th overall pick, number 5, Anthony Richardson?
That's a great question, Caden. And I actually got to the time last night to do a lot of thinking about this. I looked at a lot of player comparisons, and honestly, the stats that I saw from Anthony Richardson kind of surprised me. I knew it wasn't great, but I didn't know it was this bad. I mean, you're talking dead last in completion percentage at 47%, talking 27th in QBR rating, or quarterback rating, 164 yards per game through the air. The only bright spot is he has 10 rushing touchdowns through 11 games played. So he's played 11 of the 34 possible games through 2 seasons. Yes, he was injured, I understand that, but he also only played 13 games in college due to injury. So you're seeing a bit of a trend here with Anthony Richardson, and this is something you typically don't see from a quarterback until year 6, 7. I mean, people are still waiting for Lamar to have that, whatever you want to call it, season-ending injury, but I don't see it happening because Lamar takes care of his body. I think this is a case of Anthony Richardson not preparing the right way, and I think it's something that goes back into college, his college days. He wasn't preparing for these games. You can kind of see it in these injuries. He's getting hit. Yes, he's getting hit hard, but it's an NFL game. You're going to be getting hit by 300-pound guys no matter what you do, even if you are sliding. There's times where you're going to get laid out like Trevor Lawrence did. Yes, it's against the rules. It happens. Things happen in the NFL. But if you can't stay healthy for your first 2 seasons, why should I expect you to stay healthy through the next 6?
Well, there's a lot that goes into that. And for one, Freddie Hawthorne is going to come on here in a little bit. Being a part of the UINDY football program, knows that it's not just your individual workouts, but how a program really approaches its strength and conditioning, right? I mean, you have multiple guys in that association tasked with keeping your players healthy, keeping your players strong. And if the Colts can't keep a guy like Anthony Richardson in tip-top shape, who already comes into the league as one of the best-built quarterbacks the league has ever seen, then I think that says a lot more about the program and the Colts overall, rather than just Anthony Richardson or just this coaching staff. But it also comes down to play calling. You know, I feel like Anthony Richardson, his usage rate in the run game, higher than nearly any quarterback that you're going to see, not only in the league today, but anytime ever in the NFL. And you could make the case, you could make the argument that he's a one-trick pony. He runs because he can't throw. Well, I mean, I don't think we've given AR the shot yet. I know he's had a couple seasons, but he's missed 17 games due to injury, and I don't think all of that is his fault.
I got 2 things to say to that. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell, I think he really said it the best. He said, I believe that organizations fail young quarterbacks before young quarterbacks fail organizations. I think that's a good take, because you look to the Bears and Justin Fields. What did they do to build around Justin Fields? They didn't do anything. They didn't bring in any top-level wide receivers. You could argue Keenan Allen is a top-level receiver, but they didn't really do anything with that offensive line. Once again, Caleb Williams, really haven't done anything for him. He's been the most sacked quarterback in all of college or NFL football. I think the Colts are kind of in that same boat. What have they done to help out Anthony Richardson? They have 3 receivers who can do nothing but run long routes. They don't run routes. They just get open deep, and that's not Anthony Richardson's play style. You look back to Lamar, his first couple years, the big question was accuracy. Can he throw the ball deep? No, he's not a great quarterback at throwing the ball deep. That's not what he does. But he's good at getting out of the pocket, finding short routes. Rashad Bateman, he's that guy that the Ravens have used in intermediate and long routes, but he serves as both. It's not just one. Alec Pierce, all he does is run deep. I mean, hardly ever do you see a Colts wide receiver running a slant and just getting past it. Like Cooper Kupp, that's his special.
Yeah.
5-yard slant, he's in the end zone before you notice
You used
it.
to have Michael Thomas running that same route over and over and over and over and over again.
It makes no sense why the Colts have not done anything to help out Anthony Richardson, and then they want to complain when he's not performing as they would like. I think that is on the Colts 100%. It's an organizational thing, not necessarily an Anthony Richardson thing, but if the organization doesn't change, they're going to have to go in a different direction. And that's where I'm going to lay my foot down. A lot of Colts fans, you're not going to be happy with me, but I say get rid of Anthony Richardson. And where I'm going with this, give him another year to prove himself. There's a season coming up. There's a lot of good quarterbacks in this draft, but I'm looking to the next one. I'm looking at Arch Manning. I'm looking at Drew Aller. You think about their player comparisons. Who are the best Colts quarterbacks really to come through there? I think of Peyton Manning. I think of Andrew Luck. You could even throw Phillip Rivers in there if you'd like. They're all pocket passing quarterbacks. None of them have been out of the pocket, running. It's not the Colts' play style. If they don't change their play style to fit their quarterback, you got to have a game plan to fit a running quarterback.
But Jake, you want to tank for Arch Manning, you want to tank for somebody. What that means is that the Colts throw everything away, and they not only stink for one season next season, but what are they going to do for Arch Manning once they draft Arch Manning? It's not like they're signing anybody. It's not like they have anybody in place already to build around him. He's going to come into the exact same scenario that Anthony Richardson was in, with a subpar offensive line, wide receivers who can't play receiver, and as of right now, no tight end at all, which they're going to address in the draft, at least you would hope. But I don't think going quarterback for quarterback in this scenario changes a whole lot for the Colts. You want to go 7-9 again? Perfect. Let's do it, right? You want to be second in the AFC South? Perfect. Let's do it. But if you want a team that wins in the next 5 years, I think it is with Anthony Richardson, building around Anthony Richardson, around a quarterback that has only played, 20-something games, not even, since he's been in the NFL. And give this guy some reps, gives this guy a quarterback coach. Please, someone get this guy to throw the 15-yard slant, because he has it. I know he has it. I've watched this guy block for Jonathan Taylor before his offensive line did. He's a winner.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not a winner. I'm not saying that the Colts can't do it with Anthony Richardson, but the way that the management has handled this situation, It's not correct. Like, they have not handled this situation in the right way at all. Anthony Richardson got put into a situation, I would say, similar to what Bryce Young got thrown into in Carolina. Probably not as bad, but you're talking about someone who has no weapons. Jonathan Taylor, I mean, he was 4th leading rusher in yards this year, but it really didn't seem like it, in my opinion. If you were to watch the games, no one was scared of Jonathan Taylor rushing for 200-something yards like they were the couple seasons previous. And that's where I think the Colts take that step up. If you're going to keep Anthony Richardson, you got to turn Jonathan Taylor into a beast. He has to be that guy that every team is worried about. Why is Lamar such an explosive runner? Why was he so good this year? Because everyone was worried about Derrick Henry. No one was worried about Lamar rushing when you got to worry about Derrick Henry. That also opens up on the 3rd down and short, 4th down and short. You can't just rush the middle. Can't send out an all-out blitz because they can just pull it on the quarterback option, run it, RPO. There's a lot of things that come up when you have that dominant rusher. If Jonathan Taylor takes a step forward, if this offensive line takes a step forward, if the receiving corps takes a step forward, notice that first word, if. There's a lot of ifs with this team, and I'm done with the ifs. In my opinion, we've been over this team for a year now. They have not changed. Nothing has changed. They've done the same thing with Anthony Richardson since day one. They've tried to put him in a position that's just not him. He doesn't fit the system, is basically what I'm saying. They're trying to fit a square puzzle piece into a circle little thing right there. You know what I'm saying? I think that it's time to move on. This is just what I'm thinking. And you look at Drew Aller, you said they need a nice tight end. The guy coming out of Penn State, he won the award for best tight end. I think you pair them up kind of like how Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow get paired up. We've seen that that's been somewhat effective, pairing up college quarterbacks with a receiver or maybe even a tight end in this one. So
we'll have to see.
I think the Colts got to switch it up somehow.
A lot of Colts fans are in the same boat. A lot of ifs, and, well, Indianapolis is tired of the ifs. We'll move to basketball when we come back on Last Call.
Good morning, Greyhounds.
Your weekly dose of Greyhound entertainment.
I think if you watch our team, they have fun. You know, they have fun playing.
There's so much that you can do to get the most out of your experience.
Our alumni care deeply about the success of this university.
Come here. Watch Good Morning Greyhounds every Saturday at 9 a.m. Catch us on UINDY TV's YouTube channel and Xfinity channel 1096.
We're back on Last Call, moving to basketball. Caden, Colford, Jake Helton, and now Freddie Hawthorne joins us for today's discussion as we talk Chris Paul. He moves into number 2 all-time in steals. He sits in that same spot and assists as well, both behind John Stockton. And this is raising discussions, raising questions on where does Chris Paul sit on the all-time list of point guards. Here you get a good look at it, right? 2nd in assists, 2nd in steals, and 36th in points in league history. Not a bad resume at all. But Freddie, I'll turn to you first and ask, is he with the best of the best?
So, I mean, when you look at all those things on that list, I can't help but think about the one thing that's probably the most important in the game of basketball, and that is championships. Chris Paul does not have any. Chris Paul has played on 8 different teams. Let's just go down the run of the teams that he had the best opportunity to win in. No championship in Houston, no championship in Phoenix, no championship in LA, no championship in Golden State, no championship in Oklahoma City. Chris Paul is number 9 on my all-time list. He is top 10, but I can't move Chris Paul up any higher because Chris Paul has not won any championships.
Okay. So let me ask you this. Number 9, and even back in the control room, we're getting a little, whoa. Number 9, any notable names in front of Chris Paul?
Stephen Curry, Magic Johnson, Kyrie Irving, who has a championship.
Kyrie.
Yes, Kyrie Irving.
Okay.
I think Kyrie Irving is probably the most unguardable point guard in the country right now. So I have Kyrie Irving, Russell Westbrook, Isaiah Thomas, Jason Kidd, John Stockton, and Tony Parker, all guys who have championships.
Jason Kidd and Tony Parker. Jake, you're not looking too happy with that. What are you thinking?
I mean, I think that people hate Chris Paul because he's Chris Paul. Like, I have a friend, anytime I just say the word Chris Paul, he is instantly upset, hates Chris Paul. But I just think that if you're thinking about a traditional point guard, Chris Paul is ideal. And this is why the Spurs brought him in because he can get the ball to Wemby no matter if Wemby's open, if he's not open. Chris Paul is going to get him the ball. That's the big thing. Chris Paul makes players around him better. He's averaging 9.3 assists for his entire career, which is fifth all time. He's second in steals as of a couple days ago, but I have him at number 6, right outside of the top 5. After some reconsideration, some discussion between Caden and myself, I had to put Russell Westbrook over top of Chris Paul. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, I can't do that. Cannot do that to Russell Westbrook. But some of the names I have over top of him are Isaiah Thomas, Oscar Robertson, 2 that you didn't name, but 2 very good point guards. You're looking at some gold medal winners. And that's the big thing that I think people forget about with Chris Paul. Not everyone wins a gold medal. They win the World Cup gold medal, but that's different than an Olympic gold medal. Chris Paul has 2 Olympic gold medals, which you don't see every single day. He's also 4-time All-NBA first team. He's also 7-time All-NBA defense first team. And no doubt a Hall of Famer, but I don't think you can put him above some of those guys.
I don't think he's top 5. I'm in between you guys. I have him at 7. And Russell Westbrook at 5, Stockton at 4, Nash at 6, Steve Nash at 6. We forget that he had 2 MVPs in a really good NBA, in a really good Western Conference. And while he actually never won a finals, to be atop the league at that point, with Kobe in the league at that point, Steve Nash has got to be somewhere in that list, but Chris Paul is not there.
Another thing to think about is only 13, 14 guys win a championship every single year. So you look back at some of the greats. Charles Barkley never won a ring. Allen Iverson never won a ring. But you also think about the teams they were on, the eras they played in. They never really had a chance, and that's kind of where I put Chris Paul. You might argue that Suns team, they definitely had an opportunity to win that championship. I won't sit here and say that they didn't. But some of his other situations, he just got thrown into. You made the argument, Lob City. I don't think they ever had a chance of winning.
Is he the best player on Lob City? Is he better than Blake Griffin?
I think so. I 100% think he's better than every single player. You can't even put DeAndre Jordan.
I think the one team outside of I think Phoenix that I think that Chris Paul legitimately had a shot is in Houston. I mean, they almost beat the Golden State Warriors in that series. They were a couple of games away from making probably at that time, that would have been Chris Paul's first finals appearance. So he has been on some good teams. It hasn't helped that he's faced a lot of juggernauts during his time playing in those, those big games, but still have Chris Paul top 10. Just those championships, man. I mean, I just feel like as an athlete, that's what you chase. That's what you want the most.
Now that we're thinking about it, was Chris Paul really the best player on any of these teams that he's played on? Aside from Charlotte, he was probably the best player on Charlotte, but maybe on the Thunder.
That's kind of my point, though, is Chris Paul is not meant to be the best player on the team. He's not meant to go out and score 40 points. He's not going to come out and embarrass you. But he can get the ball to someone who will come out and embarrass you. He got the ball to James Harden. James Harden scored 50 points a game. That's the difference. And yes, James Harden, he's a great player. He was averaging 18 points on isolation plays, just him. So that means no screen, no action, no nothing. He was scoring 18 points a game. The next highest, LeBron, with 4 points per game on ISOs. So that's just like a little bit of a difference there. And I know that James Harden doesn't necessarily be involved in this, but you look at Chris Paul and his longevity. He's been playing for 20 years now. This is his 20th season. He's averaging 66 games per season, 34 minutes per game.
Don't care.
I mean, not many people are doing that year in and year out.
You could say it about LeBron when he's consistently in the mix and he's consistently atop the league in so many categories. Chris Paul has been a journeyman for 20 years, so that's awesome. Great for Chris. But we'll move to a topic now of who should be the face of the NBA. I'll tell you it won't be Chris Paul, mostly because he's just finding his way into a retirement home. But a couple guys on this list.
I think there are a couple of guys, and I actually did some research last night, found out that Anthony Edwards is the guy that the NBA is pushing. The Minnesota Timberwolves went from 5 primetime games to 18 this year, and that's a very telling way. You think about the 2 teams that have the biggest markets, the Celtics and the Lakers. They always get the most games in prime time. That's just a given. And then you add LeBron in that situation. The Celtics just won a championship. They're going to get a lot more games, but the Timberwolves seem to be that team that they're really pushing, and I think Anthony Edwards is that guy. But I would like to see it be Jason Tatum. That's who I would like to see it be. The only problem with him, he's a pretty quiet guy, and it tends to be hard for those quiet guys to become the face of the league. You got to be vocal. You got to have that opinion. Anthony Edwards is a vocal guy. He has a lot of opinions, and he doesn't really care to let people hear about it. He got fined at the beginning of last season, or it might have been the beginning of this season, for saying a gay slur, and it was like a $40,000 fine. Well, there's a lot of fans in the NBA that aren't necessarily going to be happy with that. Same thing with Ja Morant. You think about his off-court activities, the things that he's been doing. That's the problem. But Jason Tatum, that's my guy. You just saw a bunch of highlights right there. I think he's your face of the NBA. He plays for the Celtics, biggest market team in the NBA right now. They just won a championship. I don't know that they'll go back this year, but they're going to be contender every single year. I think you push him to be the face of the league.
Freddie, what do you think?
I think that, I think it's Anthony Edwards, but before I jump into him, I just want to, when we talk about Ja Morant and his off-court issues, and then I want to bring up Zion Williamson, who hasn't been at a healthy weight until this year. He was a guy who I kind of thought was going to be the face of the NBA until he had those issues with weight. But when you look at Anthony Edwards, this guy, he was the first pick in 2020. He's coming off of an Olympic gold medal with an Olympic team who had 3 top 75 players on that team. So he's around guys who have already been there, who've already been the face. And he just took this Minnesota team to the Western Conference Finals a year ago. He's averaging 27 points a game this year. He's 4th in the NBA. So I think that's a pretty good, resume to look at. And then he has the shoes as well, the AE ones, There's not a lot of guys with, signature shoes who are being marketed right now. So.
He can't be that guy, that's for sure. Anthony Edwards has potential to be that guy. I've heard he doesn't really want to. And I know the NBA is really keen on having an American be the face of the league, but I'm not looking too far. I think Shea's the guy. I think when we look at kids that grow up and want to be basketball players, if you look at the league right now, I want to be Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That's who I want to be. I want to go out and drop 32 in every which way possible. Right at the block, from the mid-range. He's killing dudes on the ISO. And Kyrie Irving was that guy for a long time that you didn't want to be caught on an island with. I think Shea is that guy in the league now that I do not want to see across from me. I think he's a killer. I think he's the best player right now. And I don't really see an argument against him.
And I think another thing to mention, they say it has to be an American, it's kind of the read between the lines, the inference is that it needs to be an American, but basketball wasn't even invented by an American. Naismith was a Canadian. So that's something to think about. It was invented in America, but that is a fact right there. I found that out. So it wasn't even invented by an American. The idea that it has to be someone from America, the last 6 MVPs have not been of American origin. So I think you look at these teams, you look at all the players right now, it's just a giant talent pool right now. How do you pick one face and put it to a league? I think you have a lot of good guys, and you use that to your advantage. Market everybody a little bit better rather than trying to go into one guy right now until you have someone that really pushes their way forward.
That's what it's looking like. We'll hop right into Primetime Pick Ems on some rapid-fire action. First game, Timberwolves at the Thunder. We were just talking about this guy. I think the Thunder beat the Timberwolves, especially at home.
Yeah, I got Thunder as well. That defense is really good. I think that Thunder have to win this one because I don't think that Anthony Edwards can score 5-on-1. I do like him against other teams where he gets those one-on-one matchups, but Thunder, they play 5-on-5 defense.
Spurs at Rockets, what do you think?
I'm thinking Rockets. Once again, I picked the Rockets last week. They got me a big win, and I'm loving the way they're playing right now. Spurs just lost Wemby. Don't think they got it.
Yeah, they lose Wemby. It's definitely tough to pick that one up. Nuggets are traveling to Milwaukee. Giannis taking on the Joker, and the Joker, I think, has too good of a team alongside him for even Milwaukee to win at home.
Yeah, I think I did pick the Bucks on this one. I believe that the Nuggets don't really have what it takes to get it done. They lost against the Lakers, which I thought they had a 100% chance of beating. So if they can't beat the Lakers, I don't think they can beat the beat the Bucks.
2 Giants in the East coming up, Boston and Cleveland. This could be a fight for number 1.
Yeah, this is a tough one for me. I just watched the Celtics beat the Knicks. They were up by 30, then they were only up by 7, then they ended up winning by 15. I'm going Celtics on this one.
Me too. Me too, for sure. That's definitely what I'm thinking on that front. And the final game on the slate, the battle for LA. Clippers technically the away team here, but they play the Lakers.
Yeah, no question, Lakers. Lakers all day. Luka's finally stepping into his own. He had a 30-point game the other day.
Well,
Lakers.
You saw it. I'm right there with you. Not too much of a difference this week, but that's the nature of the game. We're in it to win it. And as we look at the records, I don't think I came back too far.
Ooh.
I'll take it.
Gained one back. That Rockets game, step me up.
30-22. Not for long. We're all right. It has been a lot of fun. Chris Paul, definitely not in my top 5, but I'm glad to hear that he still has some love out there from NBA fans across the country. My name is Caden Colford alongside Jake Helton. Freddie Hawthorne joined us on today's show. That'll be it. This is Last Call.